It's all just football. Everything football to me, you know what I'm saying? So it was a run play, and me and Chris was looking at one another in the face, and I cut block. It's not like he didn't see me; he was looking right at me. So I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they got upset with it, but if they watch film and they watch me play, they know that's what I do. That's if they watch film, though.
Totally clean play by you.
It wasn't a dirty play.
It was a dirty play by a sorry player. He don't do nothing. He come to the game, don't catch no passes. He come to the game to chop guys from the back, and he got the same agent as me. So when I see his in that lane, I'm gonna beat his.
Tell us how you really feel, Stephen A. You think it was a dirty hit?
It absolutely was a dirty hit. I don't care what anybody says. I don't give a damn what the rule book says or anything like that. Aqib Talib is absolutely right in terms of it calling a dirty play. And here's why I would say that to Harry Douglas. I don't know Harry Douglas personally. He's been in the NFL for about 7 to 8 years. He's on his grind. He went to college at Louisville. You're 32 years old. You're a grown man. Don't talk to me about rules and what rules allow. You sit up there and you got a cornerback, a contemporary within the National Football League. Y'all are away from the play and you literally dive at his knee. That is not something that you do. I don't give a damn what the rule book says. You know, as a human being, there's certain things that you don't do if you don't have to do it. You weren't in a tussle. You weren't in a melee. You weren't in a pile, a scrum. It was just you and him. He's away from the play. He's not anticipating anything, and you dove right at his right knee. That is a dirty play. It is unethical. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to see what the National Football League Max is going to do, because I think that Harry Douglas should be suspended immediately for at least a game, and he should have himself docked a game's pay. Not to just mention that, it's also important that the NFL does that, because the NFL would certainly not hesitate to fine somebody or suspend somebody if something like that harmed the players, according to what they're concerned about. If they're protecting themselves about potential lawsuits with concussions and beyond, look at what they've turned the game into. Look at what they have folks watching out for. They're encouraging individuals to be hit low because you want to avoid high hits at all times. So if you really, really care about player safety, don't just come to me with the head shots. Come to me addressing cheap shots like that, because it was a cheap shot. The only last thing I'd like to say is, Aqib Talib, be cool. Because even though you're right, the fact of the matter is you don't need to be threatening to beat as you know what when you catch him in Atlanta. Anything that goes down between y'all from this point forward in a physical level that's off the field, I'm automatically going to blame Aqib Talib. Why? Because you just went and publicly threatened the man. You don't have to do that. Be cool. It ain't worth it. Chill out. Just relax. But Harry Douglas deserves to be fined, and as far as I'm concerned, he should be suspended for 1 game for that hit. That was a cheap shot. It was Bush League. I don't give a damn what the rule book says. That was a cheap shot. It was Bush League, and he should be suspended.
Well, we agree that it was dirty for those reasons. It was malicious, and it was unnecessary. It was gratuitous. It was superfluous. So we agree that it's dirty, but it's not illegal. You can't fine him. You can't suspend him. And it's fair for a player to say, look, football is a hurt game. The way I view it is, if I have a chance to damage the other team's asset, one of their resources, within the rules, I'm going to do it. It's one of the reasons I didn't have a problem with Bountygate, and I didn't think there should have been punishment for it. It does matter that it's in the rules or not in the rules. Not morally. I disagree with you saying ethically. I think, and not to split hairs here, but I suppose we have to. There's a difference between ethics and morals if you really do want to split those hairs. Morally is what's right and wrong based on empathy. Let me put myself in that person's shoes and see if I'd want that done to me. Come on, it didn't really affect the play. You didn't have to do that. But ethics is about a standard of behavior based on rules. And the rules in this full contact sport protect him here. Chris Harris was pursuing a runner, was running away from his own goal line, was not being blocked by anyone else, so it was a legal block by the rule book. And I don't see how you can fine or suspend a player for a legal block. Now, we agree it was messed up. I mean, it wasn't a chop block by definition, but it was messed up because he meant to injure. But you know, again, that could, so therefore it was mean-spirited. It was malicious. But one can approach the game of football from the point of view that you can play it with malice, that you can look to injure the other player If it's within the rules, that gives you an advantage. After all, when you're going now, you and I both agree. You're trying to mess with a guy's career. That's messed up. But Lawrence Taylor used to put that shoulder down and crack the guy in the small of the back, the quarterback. What do you think was on his mind? Probably severing the guy's back from the rest of his body. That's the nature of the game. If it's within the rules, maybe messed up, but it's actually not unethical by definition, and I don't see how you fine or suspend him.
Well, I'll tell you how. I'll help you see it. When a quarterback gets hit low, that play is supposed to be definitively wrong, and you get fined or you get suspended or whatever the case may be. But on several occasions, we've noticed instances where intent comes into the equation. Now, obviously, it's very subjective, it's very arbitrary, and we understand that. But someone's intent matters no matter the malice that comes associated with a particular sport, Max. So what I'm saying is this. Again, if you were in a scrum and that's what you decided to do, that's what comes with the territory because you're Chris Harris Jr. You got to watch yourself. You're in the middle of that. You are away from the play. Y'all are jogging at a very slow place. So what I know you agree that it was messed up, but what I'm saying is that elevates the intent portion of this conversation.
But what I'm saying
because
is
when we look at a Harry Douglas, and we could see so easily that because he was away from the play, his intent was of malice, and the NFL says that they care about player safety. You can adjust and modify your rules to some degree in a particular instance to say, excuse me, we know that's the rule, but you were clearly dirty in that one. You're going to pay a price for that. I think they can do that.
The defense could be, yes, I'm trying to hurt him. This is football, and I'm allowed to try to hurt someone within the rules.
And
that's the point.
But they can subjectively decide that your malice intent is of such a nature that we need to address it so we can discourage other individuals from following suit and doing the same thing.
Not retroactively.
They can do that.
That's not
yes,
fair.
They can.
It's not fair to do it retroactively.
Well, it wasn't fair to do what he did, but
Are you suggesting so the NFL should legislate that in a full contact sport, even if you do something
they already do.
Within the confines of the rules, if we determine, are we now living in a world where in the NFL it's not okay to try to hurt your opponent?
Well, yeah. Well, Max, you trying to tell me you sit up here and you haven't questioned some of the rulings on the part of the NFL considering the violent sport? You haven't questioned anything?
Yes, but that's from a misapplication of the rules or my belief that a rule should be changed, not retroactively punishing a guy for playing within the rules.
Max, hold that thought. Let's get a former player. We got Ryan Clark in the house here. Your thoughts on this?
Well, everybody's right. It's within the rules, right? So legally, you can do that. I've been in competition committee meetings probably the last 3 or 4 years, and this has come up. And it's something I've tried to get out of football. We remember back to...
First, let me ask you, was it dirty?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's not but even though that's the question, that's not the point.
Okay.
Right, so there's two different things. The question is, was it dirty? It was dirty, right? And that's why it was handled the way it was handled. If I'm the producer of that game, if I'm in charge of the cameras, I follow Harry Douglas on the next play because when it happened, when he cut Chris Harris, I said to myself, they're going to fight him the next play. Because that's what I would have did. If I was Chris Harris and I wasn't hurt, I would have fought him on that play. Because I went to every competition committee meeting and said, you guys have to stop this. You remember back to Eric Berry when he got his injury, he was cut downfield. The problem with this play is though it's within the rules, it's unnecessary. Right? They're away from the ball. Mm-hmm. Both guys are jogging. You can see him set it up too. Stand up tall, high, and then shoot his kneecap. So I try to never speak to intent. But looking at this play, there's only one way to read it. You weren't trying to make a play to allow your runner to advance because Chris Harris wasn't moving toward him. The problem is this block is legal. He hit him. He was in front of him when he hit him. It's a legal cut block. It's not a chop.
I have one question for you.
There's nothing we can do retroactively.
I do believe there's something you can do. Why? Because the NFL has religiously gone about the business of reviewing plays and then reaching a decision. Half the time, I wouldn't say half the time, but a lot more often than not, play rulings that you find as a former player highly questionable. Right. So what I'm saying to you is that couple that, Ryan Clark, and I'm asking the question here.
Definitely.
Couple that with this. As a guy, competition committee, players union, you're very much entrenched in all of this. Have you not found yourself in situations where you look at the NFL and they say, okay, this is according to the rule, this is legal, but the NFL has still made a ruling that you deem relatively questionable.
Yes, definitely. But the one thing that the NFL always has when they make those rulings is an explanation within the rules.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, if they decided to look at this and say, okay, we want to find him, it was a malicious intent, we don't like the way it was.
Same league that talks about safety, though.
It goes against
Same
player
league that
safety.
talks about safety.
There is nowhere in the rule book other than saying, we think you had malicious intent and it was unnecessary,
right,
and we're fining you.
That's all I'm saying.
So now, wait,
that's what I'm saying.
So when that happens, even though D. Smith and the Players Association will all say, we want Chris Harris Jr. to be healthy, we want the game to be played fairly, they're going to have to defend him. They're going to have to appeal it because within the rules negotiated by the CBA, but you can't.
But let him go through that process of having to defend himself so you can discourage other individuals because they may fear losing their money.
Right, but now we double talk ourselves because we get upset as a union whenever they do this and we feel like we're right. Right, we feel like it's not within the rules. The CBA doesn't state it. We've negotiated one thing and then go away from it here. We can't do it.
All right, we got a lot more to get into on First Take and with this man. Good to see you, Ryan Clark.
You consider putting Tony in the game?
No.
Why not?
Yeah, we feel good about Dak playing quarterback for us right now.
Why wouldn't a relief quarterback work in the flow of the game?
Yeah, we just feel good about where Dak is right now with our football team.
Does ineffectiveness come into part of the equation as far as putting Tony in for Dak? No. Definitively.
No, it does not.
Notice how Jason Garrett said right now after everything. We feel good about Dak right now. But I want to go to Max here. Max, is this the beginning of the end for Dak?
No, and it goes to the point I was just talking about. You start with Johnny Unitas. It doesn't matter what quarterback you're talking about. No quarterback is great or will look great to everybody every single game through the season. Donovan McNabb, an underrated great quarterback in my opinion, had some games, Donovan, I'm sure, where you didn't look good to outsiders, right? To people observing from the outside. But in fact, if you, I'm sure, analyzed it, wasn't so bad either, was it? Your offensive line, wasn't playing well. The other defense was elite. The receiver broke down the communication. It wasn't where he was supposed to be, and it made you look worse than you actually were that day. And then some days, you just have a bad day too. The greatest players of all time, that's true for. Dak is excellent. They barely lost this year, as it turns out, basically just to the Giants. And I don't think the sky is falling for Dak Prescott.
No, wait a minute, Max. I mean, if as a quarterback, you have to be honest with yourself. If you played bad, you played bad. I'm not going to sit there and try to say, well, it wasn't as bad as you think it may have been when you watch the film. You know what type of player you are. You know the things that you've worked on. If you've missed passes or you've thrown them high or thrown them low, whatever it may be, I can be the first one to acknowledge that. In a sense, for Dak Prescott, he played bad. Let's just admit he played bad. They didn't win the game. But that doesn't take anything away from Eli either. I think when you look at what Jason Garrett said, and I'm not going to blow it up when he says right now, because to me it seems like he is truly petrified to say anything. This is the problem that I've had with the Dallas Cowboys.
Preach.
You are the head coach. You have to be the one who set the tone, not Jerry Jones, the owner. Guys may run into Jerry Jones in the hallway and be able to communicate with him a little bit about maybe contracts, what's going on with the team, whatever it may be. But for the guy standing in front of that auditorium, talking to me to get me fired up about playing the Giants for the second time and being able to redeem ourselves, and Jason Garrett, you have to stand in front of the media and say, our starting quarterback is Dak Prescott. We're going to go as far as Dak Prescott takes us, not the backup Tony Romo. The problem is with this whole Tony Romo conversation, it's going to put more pressure on Dak Prescott. It's going to put more pressure on the whole offense when things don't go well. But Jason Garrett can put it to rest if he just step up and say, Dak Prescott is our guy. But we're going as far as he takes us.
But he won't step up.
He won't step up. And even Jerry Jones in the locker room looked like he was afraid to hurt Tony's psyche or something.
Let's call it what it is. And I don't mean this as negatively as it's going to sound, but Jason Garrett's a puppet. Let's be clear about it. He's happy to have the job. He doesn't want to lose the job. He was like damn near the adopted son of Jerry Jones because he was being paid $3 million. He's being paid the same as the head coach. Wade Phillips was being paid when he was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Right. He was the heir apparent. So now we transition that level of affection, that family type atmosphere, that brother-son relationship rather. You take that and you transition that to Tony Romo. And what do you have? You have a situation where everybody's being sensitive, but we ultimately must adopt and fully embrace what the desire is here. The desire is, and this is why the Dallas Cowboys are dancing better than the late Gregory Hines, God rest his soul. This is why they're tap dancing like this. Because what they can't say and what they're striving to disguise is their desire that Tony Romo be the one that steps up in there. They have never supported Dak as much as they should have. Jerry Jones opening his mouth earlier this week is emblematic of that. And in the end, what it comes down to is that whether we like it or not, I have coined the phrase accident waiting to happen. I actually should brand that, for crying out loud. I should make money off of that. I'm slipping. Because the bottom line is Jerry Jones and Jason and all of them, Dak is the future, and they know that. But the run that the Cowboys are on this year, all of them, they want Tony to be a part of it, even if it's at the expense of Dak Prescott, which is why I wore this shirt. That's why I said I love Jerry Jones, because I knew he would open his mouth and do something stupid to sit up there and compromise everything that the Dallas Cowboys are about this year. He has done it. This team is vulnerable. I'm telling you right now, the Dallas Cowboys are in trouble. And like I said before, they will not go to the Super Bowl. This is beautiful, beautiful.
All right, they got the Bucks, Lions, and Eagles coming up, and we will also get into who is now the team to beat in the NFC a little later in the show. So you heard from these lovely gentlemen, their opinions on Dak's second loss to the G-Men this season, but we want to hear from you at home. Should the Cowboys start Tony Romo? Vote now. We'll share those results and react to them a little later in the show.
By the way, be clear, there's going to be some idiots out there who feel that way. They're going to be some idiots out there because they're panicking. That's what Cowboy fans do. See, that's the bane of my existence. It's not the team, Donovan, it's the fans. Yeah. They are all nervous right now because they're like, let's not mess this up. Oh man, we got and they're calling for Tony Romo. I'm telling you, it's going to be a divide. Mark my word, that's Cowboy Nation for you. They're going to divide.
And I know how locker rooms are. There's a division in the locker room as well. You know, when they're probably looking at Dak Prescott, knowing how he played in that game and how long will this continue on. That's why I say I'm waiting to see how they overcome this adversity. Yep. This is something that's very big because this is your starting quarterback who you really don't know much about being a rookie. So I want to see how long this goes.
So much more than just a loss.